Welcome to my podcast, I Think I Can. My intention for the podcast is for individuals to begin a transformational journey towards self-awareness and self-actualization. And I do this by telling my own story, as well as all the stories from my past clients. And I do this so that you too can feel safe knowing that change is available to you, but also so you can take more responsibility for your life in 3 specific ways: in your health, your self, and your wealth. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Hey, welcome back to my new way of doing things, me recording solo much more. And today I am talking to you about relationships. Well, at least that's the way it started. But I really got deep into the weeds of what it means to be uncomfortable, which relates to relationships very much so, because in any relationship, we're going to be uncomfortable. And if the relationship ends, we're going to be very, very uncomfortable. Whether you were the instigator of the breakup or someone else was, you can't deny that you're going to be uncomfortable for some period. This applies to everything, guys. Death, everything. Will I be okay with the unknown and not knowing the immediate future for myself, for others around me, could be for my children, and allowing, you to give yourself a lot of love in that time. That's how you get through it. So I hope you enjoy the episode, and as always, I'd love to hear from you. Okay, enjoy. Hi, so today we're going to talk all about how to let go of relationships and remain sane while in that void of not knowing what the next steps are going to be, or will this relationship mend? Will I be okay alone? Letting go of what your partner's next steps are, just being okay with the unknown. And I think that's the biggest thing with relationships, right? It's sort of, will I be okay? And really, what I really want to emphasize is staying in your own lane the whole time. Whatever's going on in your life, it's like, rather than, there's so many different scenarios we could talk about, right? Like, let's say a young relationship, 2 people that have been dating for quite some time. Sometimes I have people that come to me with 4, 5, 6-year-old relationships, and actually, like, part of the reason they know that they should probably end it or uncouple, but they have this real fear about being alone. But you know what? Mainly, I think it's a fear of hurting the other person's feelings. Like, I've had that quite often. It's sort of like they sense and know that the other person is not ready for the breakup, and is a person perhaps living in fear of being alone, or has some sort of anxious attachment going on, and they feel horrible in the sense that, they would bring this on to the other person. But you have to realize in that instance is that you're not doing that person any good whatsoever. It's also, it's sort of like having, being a mother who has a young baby, a 3 or 4 month old, let's say, and they're running back to the crib every hour or two when they hear the baby, ruffle and maybe squeak and sometimes outright cry. But they have to trust that the baby will eventually self-soothe and fall asleep. And that is your job as a mother, to teach that child that child doesn't just learn this automatically. We have to sort of like activate this in the child. We have to be the catalyst for this child to sort of even realize that there's a next step in their life into becoming a toddler, into becoming an adolescent, and eventually an adult. That's what we do as parents. That is our sole calling, is to guide our children and level them up each step of the way. You can't keep a child as a child, although we do meet those adults someday, don't we? Quite often it's sort of, are you an adult? Are you still like a toddler? Like, why are you having this temper tantrum in front of me right now? Why are we having this kind of conversation? But anyway, I need to get back on topic. So, we got to realize that by going back to them and nurturing them and keeping them in their anxious state, this codependency, which, I mean, you might be lit up by doing this. Like, have you ever checked that out? It's sort of like, this feeling of taking care of someone, being a provider, being a nurturer. Maybe you get off on that. Maybe this is sort of like, we really have to like check sometimes. It's like, is this for me? Is this for you? Is this really for us? Like, am I doing it for my own validation, my own sense of importance? Or, am I doing this as a gift for you? So sometimes uncoupling is really all about like setting them free on that next level of their life, and we all have the potential to grow. We all have that choice. Like, there are thousands and thousands of personal development books out there. Why you're not picking up one of them is not the other person's burden. It's like everybody has the potential for growth, for evolution, to, coming into their truth. Like, as I said, if you're like getting off with some sort of validation of being their nurturer and their provider, and like feeling some importance with that, like, I mean, you have to realize that you need to grow. You need to not seek this sort of validation and have this internal sense of, I am good just being me. I don't need external validation. I can remain in my personal power without needing somebody to tell me I'm a good person. So there's that. There's these relationships that go on and on and on and on when really they should have ended years ago. I mean, the other thing I hear sometimes from young couples is sort of like, well, I just spent the last 5-6 years with this person. That was a waste of time. Because look, I'm starting at square one right now. But I mean, that's not the truth. First of all, you've grown immensely as an individual. How we get to know ourselves is how we relate to others. So you've just spent the last 5 or 6 years learning about how to relate to another person, getting through difficult conversations, perhaps. There's a lot of practice that comes with this, right? Like, I mean, for myself, after 25 plus years of marriage, I've grown a lot as an individual. It's all about self growth and looking in the mirror and understanding what worked and what didn't. And to me, that's wisdom. I always relate to my own personal relationship when I'm working with a client. It's it's not always sexy to do that, but it's reflection is super important. Where have I dropped the ball? What could I have done better? And the whole idea about that, though, is just sort of realizing your mistakes and deciding you're going to do life differently and getting just to be a better and better and better version of yourself. Like, we don't want to sit and in sort of this exclusion or isolation when we do realize what these mistakes were. We want to talk openly about those mistakes, either with a mentor, a coach, a therapist, or, obviously those people around us that we really love, and let them know that you're not a robot, that you're actually a human being, and you're going through some things right now, and sharing that, and, expressing those mistakes, and sort of like linking together. And it's like, how can we do this better next time? I don't want this happening again. Obviously, we're always going to continue to have difficult conversations with our partner because we're growing. Let's hope we're growing. Let's be a part of life. Let's not be like a bystander of life, like somebody in the stands. Like, we want to like jump into life and experience it for its fullest, which means we're going to have highs and we're going to have lows. That's what's called being alive. I mean, if you're chasing happiness, like, you're never going to get there. You're never going to get there. I'm much more about like how to have a extremely fulfilling and successful life without the need to be happy all the time. Like, who said, that you need to be happy all the time? Like, who said, like, that's the only way to have a fulfilling life? There's a lot of things that bring us fulfillment. And, whether it's just the silence of the morning and hearing the birds singing, or maybe it's the dead of winter and it's the silence, and to know that everything is in hibernation right now, and the stillness of that. We're not hearing birds, but silence is just another beautiful sound. So it's those moments to me of gratitude, deep gratitude, and that's what I call fulfillment. It's sort of like I'm filled up just with life, just being in the present. That fills me up. And, maybe you don't feel like you need to chase success. Maybe fulfillment is enough for you. Some of us have a little bit more urge for a little bit more success, and you get to have that too. It's sort of like, well, can't you just be satisfied? No. Some people have really deep desires to do more, to be more, to become more. And that's okay too. It's not for everybody. And if you are one of those people, then honor that. Because you know what? If you continually suppress that and keep on telling you, this is good enough. And I'm saying, like, who I'm like, I hope I'm talking to you, right? Like, if you have that desire to go over and above what you have right now, whether that's in a relationship, whether that's, um, in your career, um, like just doing more because that lights you up, knowing that you have a greater purpose, I think is what I'm saying. Knowing that you want to go deeper and being okay with taking risks, being okay with being uncomfortable. Honestly, I just thought about this like yesterday on a walk, but I feel like 2023 is my year of being uncomfortable and being okay with discomfort. I think we live right now in a real world where we're seeking so much comfort, so much safety, so much comfort. And when you think of what our parents had to do, they like being uncomfortable was tattooed like on their foreheads, basically, whether that's moving to a brand new country, not having a freaking clue of what that would mean for them, being okay with being separated from their family. Like, we're not talking Zoom calls here. We're talking isolation from their family, complete isolation. Like, when you think about COVID, oh my God, how the world got shut down. But really, like, honestly, was it really that bad? You know? So again, I digress, but it's like, if you have that deep desire, go for it. You want more out of life, go for it, because, it's only one life that you have, and honor that calling. So this is the problem with me. I start off on one topic and I love to go deep in so many different things that I get off topic. But, honestly, like this really, obviously it always relates to relationships. So it's what I said about, like, how do we manage, that void, that discomfort of being disconnected from a person that we were possibly once very, very connected to, and wondering if I'm going to be okay. It is all about being uncomfortable and knowing that you are going to be okay, knowing that you are going to get through this. It's really constantly telling yourself that. Like, this is a moment in my life right now. This is just a flash of my life right now. What I'm experiencing right now, whether that's your heart aching right now, or whether that's just, not knowing what tomorrow's going to be like, what next week's going to be like. How are you going to manage, possibly like co-parenting, or not having your children with you 24/7, or you got to realize that other people have been through this and you're no different. I mean, even if it's a loss, like a life, like a death in your family, a death of a spouse, this is life, folks. This happens. And you might think that there's no other person like you that's suffering the way you are right now. But I'm telling you that there are people suffering more, people suffering less, but there's many people suffering right now. Your next door neighbor, you don't know what they're going through right now. You don't know what their relationship is right now. You don't even know what your own children's relationships are right now. No one knows. And so we can't make it so personal. We can't make it so like it's all me. No one else is feeling this. It's like, yes, yes, they are. Especially myself. This is what I do for a living, people. I hear all the stories. And I honestly applaud so many of my clients that I know, what they've gone through and the risks that they've taken in life. Like some hugely successful people I know, like that are clients of mine, I know 100% why they are where they are because they honestly have moved when they didn't want to move. They've honestly decided to be uncomfortable. This is what I mean about always wanting to be comfortable. Like whether, it's like, oh, it's the temperature's rising outside, better turn on that air conditioning. Heaven forbid I sweat in it at all today. Or, um, you know, yeah, what do you mean? Like walk there, you know, we have cars. What do you mean? Like take a flight of stairs. We have elevators. What do you mean heating up my food on the stove? We have microwaves. Like what? Wait like a week for something to come from Amazon? Are you kidding me? There's like Prime, you know? Like, don't you miss the big block or was it blockbuster videos? Like if you're listening, Canadians, we had those stores where, we had those like I don't even know what they're called, VHS, like that's how we got our movies. And I remember that being fun. Like I remember that like, okay, we're going to drive to the movie store tonight, like taking my kids, and like them walking around the store and looking at the different genres of movies. And it's sort of like, okay, like this looks good and this looks good. And it would be an event. And then we get home and, make the popcorn and um it was a big deal. Now it's just sort of like, oh my God, like your kid's face is stuck to a screen, because they clicked, the movie or whatever. It's just like, and it's all in isolation. Oh, you like that movie? Okay, you have this. I mean, I don't know. I don't have little kids, but I can imagine. It was like, do we have 3 different iPads going now? Because, there's 3 different movies that they want, or it's just everything is just so like I don't know. It's heaven forbid somebody be in discomfort. You didn't get your favorite cereal this morning? Oh my God, let's talk about your feelings. How did it feel not to get your favorite cereal this morning? What? Like, this is just like, I mean, I, like, I think children are being like, this is being normalized now in the classroom. Like if a child is coming in like not waking up on the right side of the bed, we're going to get into their feelings and talk about not having the right cereal this morning. Like what's going to happen when something serious in their life is going to, what if they lose a grandparent the next day? Is that sadness actually that you didn't have your cereal, or is losing your grandparents sadness? Like we have to teach kids like this is just a slight speed bump in your life now, kiddo. Like get over it. Like process your sadness, I shouldn't even say sadness in that case, process your slight disappointment that you had this morning. Give yourself like shake it off. It's not that deep. Okay, let's get on with your day. Like, here's your colors, sort of thing. Instead of having them draw like about sadness or God knows, like I don't know how teachers do it, but like, quite honestly, we need to get back to the basics. And yeah, life is not Disney World. There's serious ups and downs, and there's a time and a place to process deep emotions. But my message to you is to really honor yourself in those moments. And I'm talking now adults again. It's like you need to fill your cup up. You need to do more things that light you up. And if you don't know what that is anymore because you've like melded, you and your partner together so deeply, like, I mean, how you did everything together, and that's beautiful, right? I mean, there's like deep connection there. That's wonderful. And there's a lot of great things about that. But like, you cannot in any relationship forget who you are, what lights you up, and do more of you. It's sort of like, yeah, you do you, boo. Like, have separate lives and make it more like you're one half of the circle, your partner's the other half of the circle, and when those two half circles come together, it feels great, it feels complete. But you can still function as a human being on your own. That when your partner's off on a business trip for 2 weeks, it's sort of like, oh, this is different. I get to do this, and I get to connect to friends more. I get to, you know, cook my favorite meals more, or like, I don't know. It's like I get to read more. I have more time to look inward. Um, and then, what you don't have, you tend to miss. Otherwise, it's just like, yeah. So, like, you got to feed yourself. You got to feed your soul. You can't stop doing that, because I also have, like, just this morning too, I had a woman who reached out to me, and this is very typical too. I'm 45, I'm 48, I'm 40, whatever, I'm 50, and my kids have grown up, and all I did was give to my children, and now I'm here and I don't even know who I am anymore. It's not good, and then, like, we want to continue to look inward throughout our whole lives, our evolution, and keep on looking inward and keep on going to, like, what feeds my soul? What lights me up? And yeah, I mean, that's why I have this group called People Pleasers that I'm promoting right now, because so much of this is conditioned to, the only way we can have more love in our lives is by doing things for other people, or constantly doing things with people. Or I really, as a person, want to practice being in my own head, being in silence, and just absolutely loving life. Like, just being on fire. And when someone else is in my world, another human being, okay, it gets even better, because there's even deeper connection. There's even, but I have to be okay being on my own. And so it's really connecting with yourself throughout the whole evolution of your life, and never forgetting that, like, this lights me up. I forgot about that. When I say lights you up, like, I mean, tapping into your intuition, like, and not dismissing it. It's because of the way we get lost in life. It's sort of like, oh, that feels good. Oh, wait, somebody else needs that. Oh, oh, wait, somebody else. Like, oh, I can see that really made that person happy. I'm going to do that more, because I get validated like that I'm a good person because I made you happy. I mean, this is so conditioned in childhood that, once we start gaining our independence, I think we're on a slight roll for a while, maybe in our adolescent years, because we become a bit of a rebel, and I'm going to do me. I'm like, you know, middle finger up to the world sort of thing. I'm doing me. And then we sort of get into this relationship world again, and it's sort of like, who am I? You know, we lose ourselves, you know, but it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. And that's what, if you're young right now and you're listening to this in your relationship, remind yourself that. If you've been in a long-term relationship, step outside the norm a little bit, get uncomfortable, do more of things that light you up, travel more by yourself. Go on that weekend fishing trip or that golf trip, guys, like that you've been wanting to do. Your spouse, your kids will be okay. Like clock out of work earlier and just hit up a friend and go for a walk on a beautiful summer day. Like you'll see when you start feeding your soul, it's like, oh my God, where have I been? Going back to your truth and not apologizing for it. And if you're good with the fulfillment cup, well, how could it even get better? How could it even get better? Dream big. So I'm going to end it there, but like, I know I started this off by saying, like, what do you do when you're in the void, when you've separated from someone that you really care for and love? But I can see now that this applies to really being okay with being uncomfortable and practicing that more. Like start little in your life. Like maybe it's more cold showers. Maybe it's like jumping into a cold lake. Maybe it's not turning on the air conditioning so fast. Maybe it's, yeah, like, it's -30 out, but I'm just going to like wrap myself up and go for a walk despite it. And you'll see like the nature, it will feed your soul. Or, I'm in a weird like thought pattern right now. I'm going to step into the shower and just knock that out of the ballpark and turn on the cool tap, like there's different ways of resetting our nervous system. And sometimes that means being uncomfortable. And that's why I think sometimes, people that say, I hit rock bottom, it's almost like a reset of the nervous system because they realize I hit rock bottom and I'm actually on the way up now. It's sort of like, I can do this. Hence my podcast. I think I can. Like maybe it's fasting. Maybe you need to fast for like whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that you need to go on a 3-day fast or you're Jesus with a 40-day fast. I'm saying like, I would normally love some food right now, but let's see if I can put that off. Let's see if I can do without my favorite food for 4 days, whatever, That's usually the beginning of dropping an addiction, by the way. Can I do something that's going to make me very uncomfortable and know that I'm going to be okay? And you'll see that you will be okay. And that's where you get that, I feel powerful. It's sort of like, I could actually do this. What else can I do? So maybe it's just baby steps now and you'll get that, this feels good. I'm going to keep on going up the rungs of the ladder and see where I land. And you know what? In those final years of life, you will have absolutely no regrets. So my message to you is start getting uncomfortable. And I would love to hear if you're listening to this episode and something lands for you. I'd love to hear back from you. don't forget, I love reviews. I love reading, and I'd love to hear from you more. Okay. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and we'll see you back here next week. Thanks once again for joining me on another great episode of I Think I Can podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And until next week, treat each day like it was your last, because each new day is a privilege that we shan't take for granted. Cheers and have a great week. Bye-bye.